Today, Louis Vuitton is the world's leading luxury brand, valued at over $30 billion. But the foundation of this empire wasn't laid in a design studio. It began in the mud. In 1834, 13-year-old Louis left his family farm in Ainche to escape a miserable life with his stepmother. He walked 292 miles to Paris on foot, arriving with no money or food, forced to work odd jobs with stonecutters and carpenters just to stay alive. Louis survived by mastering the mechanics of raw materials. He wasn't a fashion designer. He was a desperate teenager who learned to solve practical, structural problems to keep from starving. His arrival in Paris coincided with a massive shift in human mobility. The Industrial Revolution had just introduced the first railway lines, and the travel industry was suddenly exploding. But the luggage of the era was a technical failure. Wealthy travelers used heavy leather trunks with dome-topped lids, built to shed rain off a carriage, but inside a train's cargo hold, the shape made them impossible to stack. This diagram shows the resulting inefficiency. The curved lids created huge gaps of wasted vertical space, and as the train moved, the unstackable boxes would slide and tumble, crushing the instruments inside. The expanding rail network created a massive demand for a new kind of container. The industry didn't need a more beautiful bag, it needed a logistical solution to maximize the volume of a train car. Louis entered this market as an apprentice to Monsieur Maréchal, a prominent boxmaker. He spent years learning how the elite traveled, eventually becoming the personal boxmaker for the Empress of France. In 1854, Louis opened his own shop and attacked the cargo problem directly. He realized that if he abandoned leather entirely, he could create a box that ignored the conventions of the horse and carriage era. He introduced a trunk made of Trianon canvas. As seen on this surviving model, the material was lighter and more durable than leather. But its real advantage was structural. It allowed for a perfectly flat lid that could be stacked from floor to ceiling. This redesign optimized the logistics of the modern traveler. Within 2 years, the flat-top canvas trunk became the industry standard, marking the birth of modern luggage as a purely functional invention. Success brought a new problem. Because these flat trunks were now standard for the wealthy, they became high-value targets for thieves in transit. Louis's son, Georges, responded by patenting a revolutionary tumbler lock system. This replaced simple, easily picked latches with complex brass mechanisms, turning a traveler's luggage into a secure storage unit that could stop a professional thief. But even as they secured the physical boxes, the brand was being hollowed out by counterfeiters. Rival makers were mass-producing cheap copies of the flat canvas design to ride the company's momentum. To combat fraud, Georges created the interlocking LV monogram. Looking at the detail here, you can see the complexity of the floral pattern. It was designed as a technical barrier, using intricate printing that was difficult for 19th-century counterfeiters to replicate. The most recognized logo in fashion was not a stylistic choice. It was a utilitarian security measure engineered to protect the company's market share. This security was repeatedly tested by physical warfare. During the Franco-Prussian War, Louis's home and workshop in Asnières were looted and destroyed, leaving him homeless for the second time in his life. Louis rebuilt immediately, establishing a precedent of survival at any cost. Decades later, during the Second World War, his grandson Gaston allegedly collaborated with the ruling party to keep the brand's shop in Vichy open, while Jewish-owned competitors were forced to shut down. By the 1980s, the company faced a different kind of threat. In a globalized economy, independent family businesses were becoming easy targets for hostile corporate takeovers. To protect the brand, the family merged Louis Vuitton with Moet Hennessy to create the LVMH conglomerate. The goal was to build a corporate shield that no outside investor could penetrate. The move backfired. An internal ally, property developer Bernard Arnault, secretly bought a controlling interest in the new conglomerate. He gained the support of the Moet and Hennessy families and successfully forced the Vuitton family out of power. Under new management, the brand's growth stalled. By the 1990s, the once innovative luggage maker was seen as a dusty, irrelevant heritage label with plummeting sales. The company was trapped by its own history. The luggage was still high quality, but it was no longer an object of modern desire. To save the business, leadership decided to return to Louis's original mindset, breaking the established rules of the era to solve a contemporary problem. They invited designers like Vivienne Westwood and Marc Jacobs to treat the sacred LV monogram as a raw material for art. In the 1990s, these types of collaborations were practically unheard of for a rigid heritage brand. These lines integrated the brand into the daily wardrobes of a new generation. Louis Vuitton was no longer a manufacturer of trunks stored in a cargo hold. It had become a dominant force in global high fashion. This $30 billion empire was built by a homeless teenager who mastered the logistics of travel. It proves that lasting luxury isn't a product of snobbery, but a result of solving the